Reborn as the spoiled and wealthy cannon fodder heiress, the system held my unlimited black card and pointed at the pitiful second male lead, drenched by the rain. The main couple is already together, leaving only the second male lead, who pines for the heroine but can't have her, fallen into the mud with no one to care. Your mission is to use your money to help him rise again and redeem his dark life, amidst the system's endless, frothy explanations. I learned that after the male lead rises to prominence, he would resent me for humiliating his dignity with money during his downfall and would seek extreme revenge. Only after my death would he suddenly realize his mistake and admit that he had long fallen in love with me. He, drowning in alcohol day after day, kneeling before my fresh grave, weeping nightly to express my grief. After hearing the dark script, I was so moved that tears welled up in my eyes, swiftly snatching the black card. Stepping on the gas, I sped past the despondent male lead by the roadside, splashing him with rainwater. Then I headed straight to the nearby mall, swiping the card to buy 13 luxury handbags and 8 gold bangles, jingling ornaments, filling up the trunk. I've been poor for 24 years, suddenly transmigrated into a book and struck it rich. I need this black card to redeem my life more than the second male lead does. The car's trunk was packed to the brim. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and clanged the lid shut over all the spoils. The system frantically blared, "Host, you came to this world to redeem the second male lead. If you don't complete the mission, you'll be punished." I nimbly lay down beneath the wheel. "Isn't it just elimination? Stop dawdling, go control the vehicle right now and run me over." The system roared with overwhelming force. "Worse than death, fail the mission, and you'll be trapped in this world forever." The air froze for an instant. I quickly propped myself up and crawled out from under the wheel. The long string of gold bracelets on my arm jingled crisply. My voice trembled with excitement. "So you're saying that if I don't complete the mission, my reward is to stay in this world forever as the daughter of the city's richest family, waking up every day with endless money to spend, being the most exclusive VIP at every luxury store, buying as many designer bags as I want?" The system fell silent. Then it coaxed patiently, "Host, think about your parents. How will they survive if you don't return?" I slapped my chest heartily. "Don't worry about that." I personally turned on the gas valve, pressed the lighter, and wiped them all out in one go. Before transmigrating into the book, they were going to sell me to a 50-year-old man for a bride price of $388,000. I ended up in a brawl with the whole family, turned on the gas, and took them all down with me. The system made one last attempt. "What was your name before you transmigrated into the book?" Hope. Everything fell into silence. Feeling triumphant, I headed home with my haul of spoils. On the way back, I encountered the tragic second male lead Andy again, his face full of anxiety and impatience. He stood under an eave, sheltering from the rain in a disheveled state, holding his phone and stubbornly making call after call. I glanced sideways at the muted phone in the passenger seat. The screen had been lighting up and dimming countless times. The phone automatically hung up for the last time, leaving the screen frozen on the WeChat interface. Beneath the long stretches of green messages and the received transfer records, was the last sentence Andy sent me during the day. "Stop using money to trample and humiliate my dignity over and over. Your actions only make me feel utterly disgusted. I never felt that being showered with money by others was humiliating." Before transmigrating into the book, I had been admitted to university, but my biased parents pointed at my nose and scolded me harshly. "What's the point of a girl studying? Go work at the factory in town early to support the family. When you're old enough, get married and bring in a dowry. That way, our efforts in raising you won't have been in vain." I carried my meager luggage, leaving behind 2 ferocious faces, and boarded the train to university alone. The student loan covered the tuition, leaving me penniless. Fortunately, the dorm housed a hot-tempered young lady. The rhinestones on her manicured nails were worth a month's living expenses for me. I became her errand boy, happily fetching water and buying meals for her every day. Even the clothes and cosmetics she no longer wanted, which she casually tossed to me, I accepted with delight. Everyone accused me of having no backbone, like a lapdog, willing to abandon my dignity for money, but I calculated everything clearly. Each meal delivery earned me $100, and fetching packages or water downstairs paid at least $50. The out-of-season clothes she threw at me were all designer brands. The soft, comfortable feel of wearing them was incomparable to the worn-out, tattered clothes in my closet. A starving person, when handed a bowl of plain rice porridge, first reacts with gratitude and devours it ravenously. Rather than staring at the few grains of sand in the bowl and loudly complaining that the porridge isn't clean, with her around, I smoothly completed my 4 years of university and even managed to save tens of thousands of dollars. But Andy was different. Every time I transferred money, he silently and quickly accepted it, then he would bristle with defensiveness, loudly proclaiming his grievances to protect his fragile self-esteem. He couldn't bear to part with his money. Yet he wanted others to kneel and hand it to him, eating soft rice with a hard attitude. The relentless rain poured down on the earth, driving away the summer heat. I drove back to the villa and struggled to carry the bags inside. A collection of understated yet luxurious gift boxes lay at the center of the living room, occupying half the space. Moving closer, one could still catch the elegant leather fragrance emanating from the bags, the scent of money, truly uplifting. The system saw me utterly obsessed with bags and couldn't help but speak up. "Host, please have some pity on the second male lead and save him. He's developed depression from unrequited love." I crawled around in the darkness on the spot. "I've been poor for 24 years. My depression is worse than his. One more word out of you, and my depression will instantly turn bipolar tonight." The system promptly shut up. The nanny Mary emerged from the kitchen, glanced behind me, and didn't see Andy. Her expression turned somewhat displeased, and she spoke with a hint of reproach. "Miss Mia, didn't you drive to pick up Mr. Andy? It's raining so heavily, you came back alone. What about Mr. Andy?" I lifted my icy gaze to meet hers. The reproach on Mary's face was unmistakable, as if Mr. Andy were the true master of this villa. "I'm just a temporary resident." Andy was the famously frugal campus heartthrob, with a handsome face that exuded a brooding vibe, paired with a faded plaid shirt. Standing in the dappled sunlight beneath the trees, he completely bewitched me. During school, the differences between us weren't so obvious, but after graduation, as we stepped into society, everyone returned to their respective social strata, without any background. He faced obstacles everywhere and made no progress in his career. The woman he secretly loved was getting along famously with the male lead, which left him utterly disheartened. As if he were a walking corpse, I brought him to the villa and prepared the best guest room on the second floor for him to stay in. Now, Andy has been living there for over a year. That year, he was kind and gentle to everyone in the villa. Mary once broke a set of expensive porcelain. According to the contract, I suggested deducting the compensation from her salary. When Andy remarked calmly, "To forgive is divine, they're just a few porcelain bowls. Is it really necessary to be so aggressive? When will you ever stop the habit of humiliating others with money?" This sentence nailed me to the pillar of shame. As if I were truly a wicked young lady guilty of heinous crimes, he gave his tenderness to others, leaving only aloofness and indifference for me. The system is truly laughable. It made me redeem a man who had only stumbled on the path of love. Compared to him, shouldn't I be redeeming my own battered self instead? "Mr. Andy," I sneered, "since when did we have a young master in this house?" "Mary, who's paying your salary now? Haven't you figured that out?" Mary stiffened, about to say something. The villa door opened. Andy, drenched in rain, scanned his fingerprint and stepped inside. Behind him, he brought in a frail, pale-faced girl. That was the female lead. He actually brought the female lead back to my villa. The system kindly explained to me, the male and female leads had a conflict, and the devoted second male lead thought his chance had come, so he couldn't wait to bring her back. During their school days, the love between the male and female leads was intense, jokingly referred to by others as the most romantic pairing of a domineering CEO and a Cinderella from the slums, entering society. The script became that of a gold-digging woman dreaming of climbing the social ladder, and a cold, domineering CEO who inherited the family business and needed a virtuous partner. Their love couldn't withstand any storm. Those at the top couldn't bend to accommodate. Those at the bottom longed for equal status. After an argument, the female lead angrily turned to the backup male lead. Andy was overjoyed, believing his unrequited love had finally been acknowledged, and rushed eagerly into the heavy rain, wanting to bring the female lead home, out of concern for him. I even humbled myself to drive out and welcome his return with the female lead. Andy frowned at me. "Mia, why aren't you answering your phone? Do you have any idea how long I waited for you to pick me up? Julia almost caught a cold because of you, so my new name is Mia. 100 times better than hope. I've repeated this name in my mouth countless times, and I like it very much. Mary, looking worried, quickly handed over 2 dry towels. She also turned her head to scold, "Yes, Miss Mia. How could you come back alone and buy so many things recklessly?" Andy saw the bags scattered all over the floor. His face darkened with displeasure. "Mia, stop acting like a spoiled rich girl all the time. Just because you have money doesn't mean you can flaunt it like this. Who are you trying to impress by wasting money like that? Why can't you just change these bad habits of yours? Every time I spend money, Andy scolds me with a cold face, as if I'm spending money from his account." To get closer to him and, more importantly, to protect his fragile self-esteem, I haven't bought new clothes in a long time, nor have I dined at upscale restaurants. Even so, Andy often scowled, displeased with my extravagant spending. I frowned at him. "I'm spending my own money. What's it to you? Or have you stayed here so long that you've grown accustomed to taking over, treating everything that belongs to others as your own?" Andy suddenly turned pale. This remark was extremely cutting, gouging out his precarious self-esteem and trampling it underfoot. In the past, I would have considered his dignity, rehearsing every word in my mind before speaking, afraid of upsetting him in any way. His self-esteem was sensitive and fragile. It requires both careful nurturing and a substantial amount of money to flourish. Mary wanted to speak up to defend Andy, but I waved my hand to interrupt. "Mary, you're fired. Pack your things and get out now. Also, the cost of that set of porcelain you broke will be deducted from this month's salary." Mary screamed in shock. "Miss Mia, on what grounds are you firing me? I clearly haven't done anything wrong." Andy rubbed his temples, expressing his dissatisfaction with me. "Mia, you've never been poor, so do you even realize how ugly you look right now, using money to pressure people like this?" He was wrong. I have been poor, truly poor. So poor I couldn't afford a pen or a meal. So poor that I had to scavenge for food in trash bins, picking up discarded dry buns and desperately stuffing them into my mouth. I stumbled through high school. So poor that when a wealthy university girl first tossed me $100 bill as a tip, I clutched the red banknote, turning it over and over, too excited to sleep all night. But I knew, this wasn't what being poor was supposed to look like. After accepting someone else's money, they turn around and repay kindness with ingratitude by hurling insults at the person. "Fine," I said, looking straight into his eyes. "Mary can stay, but from now on, Mr. Shin will be responsible for her salary." Andy swallowed the rest of his words, pressing his lips together without making a sound. He was unwilling to spend the money to pay, even though I transferred so much money to him. He only spent it on himself to buy outfits or give gifts to the female lead. I didn't even receive the slightest token of appreciation. When Mary was dragged away by the butler, she was still sobbing and pleading that she was wrong, begging me to give her another chance. Julia, standing behind, bit her lip, first casting an envious glance at the pile of luxury bags scattered all over the floor. Then she reached out and tugged at Andy's sleeve, saying uneasily and innocently, "Andy, Mia is just jealous that you brought me back. Maybe I should just leave." She hunched her shoulders, looking utterly dejected, and turned to walk away. Andy grabbed my wrist firmly. "It's so late and it's pouring rain outside. If you run around like this and get a high fever, what then? You're staying here tonight. First, I'll take you inside to shower." After saying this, he actually stepped past me, intending to take Julia upstairs. Andy lives in the largest south-facing guest bedroom on the second floor, complete with a walk-in closet and bathroom, and is cleaned daily by the maid. I quickly spoke up. "Wait." Andy turned back impatiently. "Mia, I advise you to know when to stop. I don't have time to waste on arguments with you. The person I've always liked in my heart is Julia. As for you, I've only ever seen you as a sister. I'm 1 month older than him, so I really am his sister." The system chimed in at just the right moment. "Host, why don't you treat him as your own younger brother and try to redeem him a little? That way, I can complete my task more easily. By the way, what's the most common thing your younger brother says to you? What could it be?" I seemed to see Charles viciously grabbing my hair, his chubby face magnifying endlessly before my eyes. I mimicked his tone and spoke. "Other people's sisters are married off to exchange dowry for their brothers to spend. Why do you refuse to get married? If you don't marry, where will I get the money to buy a house and a car in the future? Watch me beat you to death today." The system fell silent again. My eyes were bloodshot. Andy's face gradually overlapped with Charles's. Hatred swept through my entire body. I grabbed the vase beside me and hurled it at him with all my might. It missed its mark slightly. With a scream from Julia, the vase shattered at his feet, scattering into fragments across the floor. Andy was startled and took a step back, but quickly shielded Julia behind him, his face contorted with rage. "What's gotten into you? Apologize to Julia right now, or I'm moving out of your villa tonight." I laughed heartily, pointing at the wide-open villa door. "Fine, then get the hell out, and don't forget to return a year's rent and every penny I ever transferred to you." Outside, the rain poured in torrents. Andy's face flickered in the lightning, his hands clenched into fists. The hatred on his face for me was completely unconcealed. What is he hating me for? Hating me for giving him money, hating me for helping him start his business, hating me for using my connections to pave the way for him. After a long while, I heard Andy grit his teeth and say, "Mia, you need to understand. Once I walk out that door today, I will never come back. Playing hard to get has never worked on me." I said leisurely, "What, would I ever expect a parasite like you to come back?" The color drained completely from his face. I had never said anything so harsh to him before this. Julia couldn't help but stand up for him. "Mia, how could you insult others like this just because you're rich? Andy will definitely succeed. He's no worse than anyone else." Of course Andy will succeed. In the book, I exhausted all my resources to support him in starting his business and used my lifelong connections to pave the way for him, on such a smooth and open road. He could naturally walk unimpeded, effortlessly amassing billions in wealth, but now, without my help, Andy is left with nothing but his unyielding pride. Would Julia, who dreams of marrying into wealth, still be willing to stay by this backup side? Andy held Julia's hand as they left the villa. They walked out slowly and hesitantly, as if waiting for someone to condescend to speak and ask them to stay, until the two of them stood outside the villa, the iron gate clanging shut behind them. Andy was still lost in the thought that I would regret it, when suddenly reality struck him with the opposite outcome. A look of astonishment flashed across his face as he stood outside the door, at a loss for what to do. Inside the villa, the system cautiously observed my bloodshot eyes and tentatively suggested, "Maybe you should see a psychologist. You now seem more like a shady character compared to the devoted second male lead." The psychiatrist sat across from me, holding the stack of completed tests I had filled out. Then, following the procedure, asked, "Miss Mia, what do you think is the biggest reason you can't control your emotions?" I leaned back in my chair and uttered a single word with an expressionless face, "Poor." As the word landed, the 8 large gold bracelets on my wrist dazzled his eyes. The psychologist's mouth fell open, and after stammering for a long while, he finally mustered the courage to ask, "Do you have any obsessive-compulsive tendencies in daily life?" I thought about it carefully. Only by buying lots of things to fill up the house do I feel a sense of security, so I won't be afraid of not knowing where my next meal is coming from. Sometimes I feel like a hamster, frantically hoarding food and stuffing my stomach. The psychologist took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes, trying his best to avoid looking at the 8 gold bracelets. Then he scratched his nearly bald head, coming to a conclusion he could hardly believe. According to the test results, you have been living in an environment of long-term oppression and food scarcity, with significant psychological stress. May I suggest that you follow your instincts and buy some things to pile up at home? It might help ease your anxiety. A ding sounded from my phone. I opened it to see a message from my best friend, "Mia, the land you've been eyeing for Andy is going up for auction tomorrow. See you at the auction. This piece of land will appreciate significantly in the future." I pondered thoughtfully. If I could acquire it, wouldn't I be able to donate more primary schools after making money, helping children who can't afford education return to school? This heartwarming vision of the future seemed to transport me back to the years when I wasn't yet a venomous woman. I once indulged in the warmth of family. I once fantasized about no longer worrying about food and clothing. There was no trace of the hysteria and madness of twisting open the gas tank in the end. I immediately replied, "Go, go, go. I'll definitely go tomorrow." The auction house was bustling with people coming and going. Holding Winnie's hand, I devoured 4 small cakes in a row. She looked at me with disdain. "Aren't you always talking about losing weight? How come you have such a good appetite today?" She quickly grabbed my arm and shook it. But I prefer you a bit chubbier, you're so thin now. A gust of wind could knock you over. I forced a smile. I don't have a good appetite. I'm genuinely terrified of being poor, afraid that after this meal there might not be another. I've developed the habit of stuffing my mouth with food whenever it's available. Winnie turned around casually, as if spotting new land, and exclaimed in surprise while pointing behind me, "Isn't that Andy, the one you like? Why is he bringing another woman?" I turned my head. There was Andy, appearing at the auction with Julia. I asked the system, "Don't you need to verify assets to get in here? How did he get in? Did he rob a bank and get rich overnight?" "Host, you once gave him an invitation. He came in as your +1. Andy was still wearing the same clothes he had on when he was kicked out yesterday. They had been simply washed but not properly ironed, leaving behind creases and wrinkles, showing the emptiness of one's pockets." He stared at me for a long time, the resentment and anxiety on his face slowly gathering at the corners of his mouth, eventually forming a meaningful smile, as if everything was under his control. He probably thought I was here for him, after all. I had privately mentioned this piece of land to him many times, and repeatedly assured him that it would be given to him as a gift on his 24th birthday, to help his career soar. By the time the land auction arrived, Andy's expression grew even more arrogant and confident. He was composed and self-assured, as if victory was already in his grasp. After several rounds of bidding, I secured this undeveloped land for $300 million. The host enthusiastically presented the auction contract. "Miss Mia, congratulations on successfully obtaining the development rights. Once the contract is signed, this land will be your private property." Just as I was about to step forward, Andy calmly stood up. Under the spotlight of all eyes, he regained every shred of his lost dignity in that moment. With a touch of pride on his face, he said to me, "Mia, considering you secured the land for me, I'll forgive your tantrum last night. As long as you apologize to Julia, I can move back into the villa tonight and continue living there." He accepted the $300 million piece of land with composure, showing not a trace of gratitude on his face, only excitement and a sense of entitlement. Andy probably didn't realize that beneath this familiar exterior, the soul had long since been replaced. He would soon learn that prying money from my lips is harder than prying teeth from my mouth. I remained seated, sizing Andy up with a sardonic smile. "Who said this land was auctioned for you?" Andy froze for a moment. I scoffed. "With what worth do you think you deserve a $300 million piece of land? Could it be that it's edged with gold down there?" A ripple of quiet laughter spread through the auction house. Winnie clutched my sleeve, tears of excitement welling up in her eyes. "Mia, your eye condition has lasted 5 years, and today you're finally cured. Won't do it again, will you?" Andy stood under the spotlight, like a clown being scrutinized. As humiliation and shame shattered a person's dignity to pieces, he stared at me intently, as if seeing me for the first time. "What a coincidence, I've known him for less than a day." "That's true, the system sent me to redeem him, but it definitely picked the wrong person. As a gloomy wreck who can barely save myself, how could I possibly have the energy to rescue some lovesick second male lead with his nose in the air?" The whispers in the auction hall reached Andy's ears clearly. "It's nothing more than talk about living off others or being kept." Julia couldn't help but stand up and confront me. "Mia, why on earth won't you give the land to Andy?" I narrowed my eyes slightly. "How about you take $300 million to help him out?" Julia was at a loss for words. In this world, it seems that as long as the second male lead is a bit brooding and obsessive, everyone is expected to protect and support him unconditionally. I'm also a dark soul, bitter, sarcastic, and crawling on the ground. Why doesn't everyone fund me for free? Andy wore a sinister expression, holding Julia's hand. He fled the auction and viciously threw a parting shot at me. "Mia, even if you beg me, I'll never step foot in your villa again in this lifetime." The devoted second male lead has completely vanished from my world with his female lead in tow, without me standing in their way. I suppose Andy must have gotten his wish by now and be thriving, 3 days after acquiring the land. I stepped into a high-end clothing boutique in the mall, reach out and gently touch the latest model. The soft fabric can truly soothe the inner anxiety. Suddenly, the system sighed faintly in my mind. I tactfully replied, "What, have I not gone mad these past few days, giving you the leisure to start sighing?" The devoted second male lead is having a bit of a rough time now. It thoughtfully showed me Andy's current situation. After leaving the villa, Andy calculated the little money he had left and rented a one-bedroom apartment in the urban village. In this sweltering summer, the inside feels even hotter, like a steamer, but like a victorious general. He held his beloved heroine tenderly and said with deep affection, "Julia, give me some time. I promise I can give you a good life. I just need some startup capital now. If I can gather enough money, I'm sure I can succeed in starting my own business, in places he couldn't see." Julia wore an expression of disdain for the cramped surroundings. Though she came from an ordinary background, she had once loved the male lead passionately and intensely. She had lived in top-tier mansions, dined at the most expensive restaurants, and stayed in hotels that cost tens of thousands per night. How could she be willing to return to a cramped urban village, the woman loved by a lion? Hyenas are just a distraction. The system tentatively spoke up. How about we try a little redemption? After all, I have KPI evaluations too. If the host fails the mission, it'll lower my personal task completion rate. I'm standing in the fitting room right now, holding a long, slender scarf in my hand. Upon hearing this, I decisively wrap it around my neck, rolling my eyes while hoarsely saying, "Come on, say that again if you dare. Don't believe me. I can strangle myself right here to liven things up." The system wails in panic. "Host, can we please sit down and talk this out calmly?" I loosened the scarf and abruptly changed the subject. "But you're right, the second male lead really did have it rough. After all, in a city like Hong Kong where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold, even a pigeon coop in the urban village costs a fortune." The system flailed excitedly. "Are you going to start redeeming the second male lead now?" I took out my phone and pulled up Andy's WeChat. He had left the villa several days ago, but still hadn't deleted my contact. His profile picture lay quietly in the contacts list. I refreshed his moments 3 times a day. Every single one is bragging about having found love. The last message on WeChat still remains his bold declaration. I sent a message, "Andy." The other side almost immediately showed, typing. They must have been editing for a long time, as it took quite a while before finally sending me a message. "Mia, don't you think it's too late to contact me only now?" "How is it too late?" "Better late than never to collect a debt." I frowned slightly and reply, "It's never too late. The money I transferred to you this year, along with the rent for staying at my place, has been compiled by my lawyer and sent to your email. Remember to pay on time." The other side suddenly fell silent. Even the typing indicator disappeared. I waited for a long time, but never received his reply. Once, Andy felt that giving him money was an insult. Now I want to reclaim the humiliation. But he clings to it tightly, refusing to return even a shred. Seeing his prolonged silence, I deliberately forwarded the nanny Mary's WeChat contact to him. "Mary adored you deeply, treating you like her own son. She has already been dismissed by me. If you need to hire a nanny, you can contact her. Monthly salary of 8,000, meals and accommodation provided, triple pay on holidays, don't forget." Still no response. I waved my phone to show the system. "You see, it's not that I won't save him, it's that he won't acknowledge me." Now, the system completely fell silent. The auctioned land was quickly approved, and preparations for the new project began in full swing. To secure some investments, I deliberately sought out the biggest antagonist in the book. At first, the system even tried to stop me. "Host, that's the villain. The kind of man who can make Hong Kong's business world tremble with just a stomp of his foot." I argued my point. If I don't find an investor who can make the business world tremble with a stomp, should I instead look for a man from the urban village whose stomps only make the ceiling downstairs shake? The meeting went surprisingly smoothly. Beneath this skin of mine, there's a hope who knows nothing about investment or business. The only source of my business knowledge comes from what the dormitory's young lady casually mentioned in my ear before I transmigrated into this book. In business, the most important thing is to share the profits. Only when others gain benefits will they be willing to continue working with you. Not only did she fund my college education, but she also taught me many practical things. Even getting a driver's license was because the young lady found it too hard and tiring. Dragging me along as company during summer break when she had to learn to drive, she went ahead and paid the registration fee for me too. I pondered deeply over the term, profit sharing. Without hesitation, I changed the originally planned 60-40 profit split to 70-30. I signed the contract and, on a whim, ordered a few bottles of expensive red wine. I just didn't expect it. The private room door was pushed open, and the person who came in carrying the wine turned out to be Andy. I haven't seen him for over a month. He's lost a lot of weight and looks much more haggard than before. If back in school days, he was the melancholic campus heartthrob with an air of genteel poverty, now, he's covered in the dust of the road and exhaustion. His eyes no longer held their previous clarity and freshness. This was the largest bar in the city. Handsome young men weaved through the crowd carrying drinks. With Andy blending in among them, he was utterly inconspicuous. He was carrying drinks when he looked up and realized that in the luxurious private room, there were only me and another unfamiliar man. At first, he froze in disbelief for a moment, then quickly snapped out of it and grabbed my wrist, his face darkening as he demanded, "Mia, who is he? Why are the two of you alone here?" I lifted my foot and kicked him squarely in the crotch, successfully breaking free from his grip. "Do I need to report to you when I discuss business with others? Do you think you're my father or something?" Andy's face turned pale and flushed alternately. After staring at me for a long time, he finally let out a slow sigh, like surrendering weapons, yet also like the long-held tension finally easing away. He spoke slowly, "Mia, you win. You knew I was working here, and deliberately brought someone else to provoke me, didn't you? For over a month, you deliberately didn't contact me, just to make me see clearly who I truly love, didn't you? As you wished. I finally have to admit that I love you now more than Julia." He closed his eyes, as if making a final break with the past, yet also as if reluctantly stepping into a new life. "Mia, I will return to your side and promise to have no further private contact with Julia, but I have one condition. You must first give me the land, and then we need to establish 3 rules. First, withdraw the repayment list you sent me." "What?" I sharply sensed the impending financial loss and interrupted in alarm. "You want the land? Fine. But now you want my money too. You want the land and money? Fine. But now you're repaying kindness with betrayal, demanding even more from me. Are you some kind of jinx? The moment I get involved with you, my family falls apart." In this book, I poured most of my efforts into elevating Andy to become the new elite of Harbor City. The first thing he did after establishing his footing was to acquire the Thomas family's company and then kick our Thomas family out of the board. He also collaborated with several other companies to completely strangle my parents' newly prepared venture in its infancy. From then on, the Thomas family had no chance of recovery. My parents also soon passed away in sorrow. Men and women truly think differently. When a man loves a woman, he'll spend some money to keep her like a pet bird or cat, never fostering her ability to earn independently. The woman gets just a little money, leaving her only option to dress up nicely for the man's appreciation. Every penny spent on such a woman ultimately still serves the man's interests. Women are different. When a woman loves a man, she brings him into her money-making circle, patiently teaching him how to establish himself step by step. Then she watches him grow bigger and stronger, even surpassing her, only for him to reveal his true nature, turning away to chase younger girls, left behind like yesterday's withered flowers. I've been poor, desperately poor. That's why I value money more than life itself. No one better lay a finger on my money. Andy, do I really have to spell it out for you? I don't love you anymore. Could you just get out of my sight and disappear from my life forever? Close by, I could clearly see Andy's lips trembling slightly. He had never been able to believe that I would suddenly stop loving him. The love in the past was too intense, so intense that he was tightly wrapped in it, convinced it would never fade. Impossible. He stared into my emotionless eyes. "How could you stop loving me, Mia? You're just mad at me, right? I was just too poor. I couldn't believe a rich young lady would like me. So I kept testing your limits to prove your love for me wouldn't waver. Now I'm certain you truly love me. So let's stop fighting and go back to how things were before, okay?" He was pleading. Her eyes shimmered with scattered light. Love is a luxury only the wealthy can afford. I had only been in this book world for a month, suddenly rich, but unable to offer him something so extravagant. Seeking love from me was destined to be futile. The one who could love him had long since vanished. He stared into my eyes, searching for traces of past affection, but after searching for so long, not a shred of love remained within. Unfamiliar and wary, if he hadn't appeared before me on his own, I would have even forgotten what the infatuated second male lead of this book looked like. "You're right. How could a young lady like me ever like someone as penniless as you? Now that you've proven this point, can you just leave? Andy was scared. For the first time, I saw fear on his face. Life in the urban village this past month has been far from pleasant. To make ends meet, he even had to come to this shady place to peddle alcohol. Andy forced a smile, as if trying to convince himself. No way, you love me so much. How could you suddenly stop? He grabbed my wrist, trying to pull me outside. Mia, let's talk alone. Come out with me. At this moment, his strength was immense, just like my father's hands, weathered from years of farm work. On the day I was tricked into coming home, I argued fiercely with my father for a long time about the marriage arrangement. Until the very end, he was still dragging me by the hand, pulling me into the room. Hope, you think you can just walk away from me because you went to college? Think you're all grown up now? Huh? I'm telling you, you're getting married whether you like it or not. This scene overlapped before my eyes. No one saw my suddenly bloodshot eyes. As if something had invaded my brain, I let out a scream, grabbed the beer bottle beside me, and smashed it hard onto Andy's head. Bang! He clutched his head. Blood gushing between his fingers, shock and pain froze on his face. He couldn't believe that I, who loved him so much, could actually bring myself to strike him. Shards of glass scattered across the floor, and the villain suddenly curled up in the corner sofa, clutching his head with fearful eyes, shouting, "Let's change the profit split to 60 to 40. No, 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 50 to 50, just 50 to 50. If you hit him, you can't hit me anymore. I'll have my secretary draft a new contract right away. Hey, Bob. Hurry up and print a new contract. Change the profit to 50 to 50. If you don't get here soon, I'll be celebrating my first week memorial next week." Amid the mess, the system wailed and clung to me. I was wrong. Host, please call the psychologist again to take a look at me. I'll never let you. This gloomy guy redeemed the second male lead again. Once more, I sat before the psychologist. A stack of completed test papers was handed to him. The psychiatrist vigorously rubbed the few remaining strands of hair on his head. He stared holes through several sheets of paper, then tentatively asked, "Miss Mia, what do you think is the root cause of your emotional outburst this time?" I leaned back in my chair with my hands folded. Scene replay. It brought back bad memories. That pain has clung to me like a festering wound, impossible to shake off. The psychiatrist seemed to have found an opening, her voice lightening. "Oh. Could you tell me what you were doing at the time?" "Signing the contract. The land was acquired for 300 million, and we agreed on a 30 to 70 profit split, 30 for me, 70 for him, but now he insists on 50 to 50, based on estimates. The partner is giving up at least 200 million in profit to me." The last few remaining strands of hair on his head were completely rubbed away. He wiped his face hard and took a deep breath, reaching this conclusion, based on the test results. "It seems you're experiencing recurring painful memories. Maybe try to avoid recreating similar scenarios, for example, like minimizing opportunities to earn 200 million. He spoke without confidence. I couldn't agree either, but I barely managed to take in the previous sentence, minimize replicating identical scenarios. I pulled out the conversion list I had sent to Andy again and added a medical expense item to it. The bottle broke his head, and compensation was needed. I frowned and asked, "System, how much would it cost to compensate for a broken head?" "It depends on the severity of the injury. A minor one costs 20,000, while a serious one can easily reach hundreds of thousands." The devoted second male lead is still alive. That proves the injury wasn't serious. I generously waived 20,000 and resent him the remaining 10 million bill. When Andy called, I quickly hung up and blocked his number. After finishing all this, I let out a long sigh. And Winnie's call came through. "Mia, want to go shopping together? I've got some gossip about Andy here." Winnie's voice was full of schadenfreude. In the luxury store, while trying on the latest handbag with her outfit, she teased. He couldn't scrape together the money to pay off his debts and wanted Julia to sell her luxury bags and jewelry. The result, Julia had a huge fight with him, then took all her belongings and ran off to reconcile with her ex-boyfriend. In this book, the male and female leads go through twists and turns before finally getting back together. The saga of the domineering tycoon and the innocent girl from the slums continues to unfold. As for me, who had always supported the devoted second male lead, I drew a clear line with him and resumed my life as the wealthy heiress. Everything returned to square one, only Andy remained at the finish line, watching both those he loved and those who loved him slip through his fingers. Unable to hold on to either, at school, Andy fell in love with Julia at first sight. The reason was laughably simple: the penniless second male lead was down and out, holding a tray in the school cafeteria, but the balance on his card couldn't cover even this simple meal. When the female lead noticed, she generously swiped her own card for him. At this point, the sprout of love broke through the soil. Even later, when I spent $10 million for Andy, it couldn't compare to the weight of the $20 the female lead once sacrificed for him. I resentfully bought a bag. The second male lead isn't worthy of $10 million, he only deserves to hold on to a $20 meal. Slowly savoring this aged dish mixed with love over the long years, I thought I would never have the chance to see Andy again. While driving back to the villa after parting ways with Winnie, I unexpectedly noticed a disheveled figure crouching outside the villa. He seemed to have been waiting for me for a long time, rummaging through the depths of memory. Only then did I barely recognize him. It was the once proud and aloof second male lead, full of deep affection. Upon seeing my car, a glimmer of light appeared in Andy's eyes. He cautiously called out, "Mia, you blocked all my contact information." I had no other choice, so I decided to wait here for your return. He was no longer as arrogant as before. There was still a faint scar on his forehead. The trials of life had left a touch of weariness on his face. I recalled the psychologist's advice to minimize recreating similar scenarios, and Andy always brings back my most painful memories. Instinctively, I tried to walk around him, wanting to return to the villa. Andy panicked. He was about to reach out and grab my arm, but then remembered how I had smashed a bottle over his head half a month ago. He quickly withdrew his hand and instead blocked my path. "Mia, I know I've done many things to hurt you in the past, and I blame myself for never being able to see my own heart clearly. Your family background is too good. I've always felt I wasn't worthy of you. That's why I wanted to test your love for me." He spoke with genuine emotion, even tears glistened in his eyes, yet I frowned and took a step back. He treated this relationship like glass, repeatedly testing its strength by adding more pressure. As he wished, the glass finally shattered. Having tested and obtained what he wanted, he became unwilling and insisted on piecing the glass back together. "But you didn't pass my test, so between us, it's over." The system made one last attempt. "How about, shut up? If even the female lead doesn't want it, why are you dumping it on me? Do I look like a recycling station for trash?" The system actually fell silent. A layer of terror surfaced on Andy's face. He didn't believe I had withdrawn my love, nor could he believe that someone who once loved him so deeply now showed not a trace of affection in their eyes. For so long, he had been maintaining a delicate balance, taking money from me, send love to Julia. He desperately hoped to grasp both sides, yet in the end, it all came to nothing. I tried to step past him to return to the villa, but Andy suddenly knelt before me. A faint tear streak ran down his voice was hoarse. "Mia, you must be lying to me. How could you possibly not love me? You loved me so much before. How could you suddenly stop?" He knelt on the ground. Through the blur of tears, he didn't see my increasingly bloodshot eyes. The day I turned on the gas valve, my mother also knelt like this, using her usual filial piety to guilt-trip me. "Mia, I've raised you all these years. Why can't you think about the family for once? You're already 24. Girls your age in the village have long been married, yet you remain so selfish, only thinking of yourself and never considering your family. Mom is kneeling for you, Mom is kowtowing to you. Just get married and exchange the bride price to help your brother." She banged her head on the ground with loud thuds, as if this could turn me into an utterly wicked person, a lump of dough to be kneaded at will under her emotional blackmail. Right now, Andy is also kneeling beside me. Her figure gradually overlaps with my mother's aged silhouette. Compared to my father and younger brother, it's my mother I resent more. I hate her weakness, hate how after enduring so much misery, she dragged me along to taste the path she had walked. I hate even more that she used her cancer diagnosis to trick me into coming home. The once pitiful victim of exploitation has become a willing accomplice to evil. The crimson in my eyes grows deeper, past and present intertwine. The moment my sanity was consumed, I grabbed Andy by the hair and slammed his head violently against the floor, and screamed hysterically, since you love kowtowing so much, today you can do it to your heart's content. Even if you kowtow yourself to death today, I won't let you have your way. I would never trade my own life for my brother's exorbitant bride price, nor would I let myself become nourishment for my family to exploit. By the end of my tirade, I could no longer distinguish who stood before me. It wasn't until the butler dragged my hysterical self into the villa that I regained a sliver of clarity. I turned to look back at Andy. His forehead was covered in blood. Perhaps it's for the best. From the despair in his eyes, I knew Andy had completely come to terms with the reality of the situation. That's not just that I don't love him anymore. I even hate him to death. By the time the psychiatrist came for the third visit, his hair had completely fallen out. This time, he didn't make me fill out any questionnaires. He said, "That thing doesn't work." Having nothing left to lose, he cut straight to the chase and asked me a question. "Miss Mia, who is present each time you lose control of your emotions?" I've given it serious thought. "Andy, he's there every single time." The psychologist slammed the desk hard. "The root cause lies right here, that broom-wielding jinx. From now on, steer clear of him, keep at least 30 feet away, and I guarantee you won't face this situation again." Miracle doctor, instantly prescribing the right remedy. I had a sudden epiphany on the spot. With endless gratitude, I saw the doctor off, engraving his words in my heart. In my future life, I absolutely won't allow a devoted second male lead to appear again. The land I acquired is being developed in full swing. What puzzles me is that every time the main antagonist of this book sees me, he brings 2 bodyguards and keeps a distance of 3 meters, not daring to approach. Yet, the book describes him as a stern and unapproachable CEO, always clear-eyed and composed, ruthless by nature. The description doesn't quite match reality. He probably regrets agreeing to split the profits 50-50. True, after I bought the land, I had no startup capital left. He partnered with me, investing a full $400 million into the project, yet ended up with equal shares. No wonder there's such deep regret. At this moment, I feel like I'm actually the biggest villain in this book. Pluck feathers from passing geese, take wastes from passing people. I often stayed at the construction site to check on the progress. After failing to catch me at the entrance of my villa, Andy spent a long time tracking me down. He started staking out the construction site too, taking my psychiatrist's words as gospel. I hired bodyguards and had Andy driven away whenever he was spotted from a distance. From afar, I could hear the hysterical cries of the devoted second male lead. "Mia, I just want to say one thing to you. It'll only take a minute of your time." I curled my lips in disdain. Before me was a project worth $700 million. Where would I find a minute to chat with this jinx? Winnie rolled her eyes at him disdainfully. "TCH, you're just here for the money. After living in a pigeon coop for too long, you start missing the comfort of the villa." Andy had once thought about starting his own business after leaving the villa, but the bosses who used to be friendly with him chose to ignore him after learning about his falling out with me. His once proud network of connections completely collapsed. He carried his unfinished software, running himself ragged, yet no one was willing to even glance at it. Where was the high-spirited confidence of his past life? My lawyer chased after him, demanding $98 million. The additional $20,000 deducted was my voluntary compensation for the medical expenses from breaking his forehead. I've always been clear about money matters. I would never take advantage of others, but don't expect to gain anything from me either. Andy couldn't repay the debt. Helplessly, he sued the female lead to reclaim the gifts he had given her. At this point, the devoted second male lead and the female lead completely severed ties. Without me, the villainous supporting female character, standing between them, they actually ended up confronting each other in court. The love they once shared was completely gone. After turning hostile, Julia completely settled into being the male lead's little canary, never again mentioning her ambitions to rise in status. I don't care about that. All I care about is that my $98 million has finally been fully recovered, on the day the shopping mall construction was completed. The system that had been silent for so long suddenly cheered in my ear. "Host, I'm leaving." My rarely present conscience ached for once. "Sorry for not letting you complete the mission, ruining your KPI." "Host, my mission is complete." Cheers erupted in my head. Only then did I understand. The system's mission was to redeem the devoted second male lead, freeing him from his dark obsessions. I succeeded. The second male lead now harbors not a trace of darkness or obsession. All that remains is the wear and tear of life and an empty wallet. He has no time for gloom because the food delivery is about to be late, nor does he have time for obsession, because he might receive a bad review. Awesome, I gave myself a pat on the back. I successfully redeemed a gloomy soul. When the second investment came in, I used it to donate to several elementary schools and help girls from mountainous areas who couldn't afford education return to school. I haven't had an emotional outburst in a long time. The nightmares from before transmigrating into the book gradually faded away. On the first day of the mall's opening, I successfully received my first dividend, just in time for moving into a new home and welcoming my 26th birthday. I met up with Winnie and the three villains at our new home. Meanwhile, the groceries Winnie ordered online arrived. The moment the door opened, caught off guard, Andy appeared before us. He carried the heavy groceries and handed them to the nanny as usual, about to say something when he looked up and saw me sitting upright in the middle of the sofa. For a moment, he seemed dazed. Though only 2 years had passed without speaking, it felt like a lifetime. After a brief pause, he told me, "Mia, I had a dream. I dreamed that you helped me start a company and elevated me to the status of a rising star in Hong Kong. But because of my intense pride in my youth, I always believed that giving me money was an insult, and I repaid your kindness with enmity, driving the Thomas family to bankruptcy, and it also killed you." His voice choked and trembled as he spoke the final words. He might have dreamed of the original story's plot, dreaming of a lifetime of wealth, only to wake and find it vanished like a fleeting dream. My unfamiliar gaze met his pained eyes, not a ripple of emotion in their depths. Andy has been worn down by society, yet still looks at me with hopeful eyes, longing for me to change my mind, hoping I'll fall in love with him again and pull him out of the mire. Only the greatest villain in this book expertly curls up on the sofa, clutching his head and shouting, "What are you standing there for? Close the door already." This Auntie Thomas goes crazy every time she sees him. If you don't turn it off, I'll really be celebrating my 7th day memorial next week. The door was slammed shut violently. A single door separated us into 2 different worlds, never to blend again. The world Andy once despised beyond measure, he could never set foot in it again in this lifetime. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.